8 years? 8 years? That's how long it took us? Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's your boy Sly Lancy here. We're back for some more Sly Cooper content, and in today's video, guys, we're going to be discussing another divisive game in the Sly franchise, Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. Now, this game, I've seen every opinion you could see or think of on the internet with this game, and this is one of the most, this is easily, I still think that Sly 3 is a bit more divisive in a way, but Sly 4 is without a doubt very, very divisive in the fan base. But it seems like there's one clear-cut opinion, is that this game is just not as good as the first 3 games are. But how do I feel about it? Well, we're gonna find out in a sec. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready too. Let's get into it. Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. Alright guys, you know the drill. With 3 reviews in already, we start off with the cover. I get a combination of Sly 2 and Sly 3 with this cover art. You know, it looks action-packed, but it's actually still pretty sneaky in a way, where like Sly's jumping down, and even though he's acting like he can't be seen, the sun in the background shows that he can still be seen. So overall, I do like this cover actually. I do like this cover, but not as much as the other covers. As I said before, I like the sneaky covers much better, but I do like this one. But I don't know if I can rank it higher than even Sly 3 per se. But it's very, very close. So I should probably start from the beginning. The name's Sly Lancy, and we're here to talk about Sly 4. Okay, so now that we got that little Easter egg out the way, let's just continue on with the video. So, after an undisclosed amount of time, we don't know whether it was like a year, 7 years, or who knows how long it's been since the gang got back together. But yeah, after an undisclosed amount of time of everybody enjoying retirement, Sly is with Carmelita, Bentley is with Penelope, and Murray's out doing the racing gig. So, Bentley is now the new keeper of the Cooper lineage, just protecting everything under Sly. Well, for Sly, basically, because that's how close their brothership is. So, after a while of working together and being together, Penelope, for some reason, just vanished out of thin air, and it worried Bentley sick, but he couldn't stay worried for too long because it was from that moment that he saw that the Cooper lineage was being erased from history completely. So, with no hesitation, Bentley goes to round up Sly and Murray back together again so that they can figure out who's erasing Sly's history and stop them before it's too late. So, they travel through different sections of time periods in order to stop whoever's doing this. They also choose to keep the book out of the harm's way by leaving the book with Dimitri so that it doesn't get lost in time for good. So firstly, Bentley has built this time machine. But in order for it to work, we have to steal an artifact from a certain time period that we have to use in order to get to that certain time period. So firstly, we have to steal a samurai sword that Sly was checking out because he was getting the old itch to be a thief again, which I'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, so they managed to steal the priceless sword, but not before Carmelita catches Sly in the act, and now Sly has a lot of explaining to do to Carmelita when he gets back, and he better hope that Carmelita doesn't want to slice his throat after this situation. But yeah, after managing to steal the samurai sword, the gang goes back in time to Feudal Japan, where they first meet Ryoichi Cooper. So they have to help Ryoichi get back his sushi shop and also stop this dude by the name of El Jefe. Basically like a wannabe Rajan in a way. So yeah, they managed to do that and they managed to stop El Jefe. But unfortunately, they still semi-lose the battle because Ryoichi's cane ended up getting stolen in the process. And keep this in mind because this is going to be a running theme going on in this game. So afterwards, the gang learns from Dimitri that they need to go back to the Wild West and meet old Tennessee Kid Cooper, because now his problem is that he's being framed for a crime he never committed by this dude named Toothpick. A guy who grew up infatuated with cowboy films but then grew up to wanting to be a gangster growing up, and then was granted a chance to be an actual cowboy when he met a mysterious skunk that we will talk about later. And also, Carmelita gets involved in the story once again too, because like every other Sly game, she gets involved with Sly somehow. and even in time travel. Keep that in mind. But yeah, so despite a weird sequence of events, the Cooper gang is able to defeat Toothpick. But once again, it's a Feudal victory because we lost Tennessee Kid's cane to Toothpick, who gave it to the Paradox. And because we were doing a train battle, and the van is now at full speed because there's no brakes to the van, and the Cooper van's about to crash into the river, which means that these guys are gonna die unless someone is quick enough to take a piece of unless someone's able to find an artifact from history and use it in the time machine as quickly as possible, which Bentley somehow manages to do by using Murray's necklace that he got from the Guru and throw it in the machine, and bam, somehow they're in caveman times. And now the Cooper gang is stuck in a prehistoric wasteland in the middle of nowhere. And this situation pisses Carmelita off beyond comprehension, to the point where when Sly tries to talk to her, she was willing to shoot him. And Carmelita goes out by herself, leaving no trace of where she could probably go to. So, it's just Sly, Bentley, and Murray by themselves, and they have to figure out how to get back home without any electricity or any way, shape, or form of getting back home. But this is where the idea of like too many coincidences come in this game, and how like they landed in a exact mark in history that they needed to be, because in this area we learn of this new villain by the name of the Grizz. And if you want my opinion of the Grizz, just go to my worst Sly Cooper villains list. Okay, so while the Grizz is not one of my more favorite villains in the series, he does have an impact in this game, in a way. So yeah, we have to figure out how to stop this dude from trying to pull off one of the greatest heists in history. Or not heist per se, one of the greatest con jobs in history, that's a better word for it, in which he was gonna paint his paintings, put it back in the ground, and then go back to the future and dig it up later and sell it for a fortune. By far one of the more interesting schemes I've seen in the Sly Cooper franchise so far. Also, this is the area where we get to learn about one of Sly's very first ancestors. Nope, not Slighton Common, but rather this guy named Bob Cooper. Yep. In other words, they retconned some of the lore by saying that Bob Cooper was the very first Cooper in history, and Slighton Common came a while after that. So, I don't know how I feel about that. I get like the concept and what they were trying to go for, but I really did initially like the idea of having it being Slighton Common the first be the one doing it. But, you know, again, it is what it is. But yes, so again, same thing as usual. After a brief sequence of events, you know, Carmelita actually somewhat forgives us at the end of the chapter, and, you know, we're able to go about our operation and we stop the Grizz. Again, it's another Feudal victory because we lost Bob Cooper's cane this time, but this time they do a wrench in it by actually having it be stolen earlier in the chapter. And another thing I will say about this chapter is that it has the hardest Sly Cooper mission ever. And I don't care how many people disagree with me on that assessment, Training Montage is the hardest Sly Cooper mission for me, period. I don't care how many people roast me for that. Okay, so now we're in England, and it's mainly thanks to the Grizz's crown that we got there. So, this is where I start to feel a bit of like repetition going on in the story, and how, like, you know, this game, even though I liked the Wild West so far and a bit of Japan, I feel like the game is starting to become a bit stale at this point for me at least. But this chapter changed all that. So in this chapter, we're in England, and we meet Sir Gareth Cooper, and this mysterious figure known as the Black Knight, which for some reason, no matter how many databases Bentley looks into, nothing comes up for the Black Knight in this particular area, or timeline per se. So, and it's after doing a little bit of research and figuring out who this person could be, we finally learned. Remember how Penelope disappeared in the game earlier? Well, turns out she's the Black Knight. and everything just changed completely for Sly after that moment. Now, it depends on who you're talking to, but I think the main consensus is that Penelope's betrayal basically was a jump the shark moment for many Sly fans, because they felt it was way too out of character for Penelope. Personally, for me, I was pissed off with it, but it does make sense for Penelope's character. I do see it making sense for her character. Given how she was in Sly 3, I could see why she would do this. I just wish that they had made it better execution, or that if they saved this like plot point for the very end of the game, in my opinion. Because to me, it didn't make too much sense to me the way they went about it, but you know, it is what it is. So after the realization of this, Bentley is so heartbroken over the situation that he ends up just, you know, he basically just shuts down. He shuts down for a while because of how sad he is. Sly, Murray, and Carmelita are beyond pissed off at this, knowing how much of a teammate Penelope was, and for this to happen really incensed them beyond belief. Sir Galeth, obviously, he's indifferent to all this, but again, he's going out of his way to help this team out. So, through another weird sequence of events, again, I know I'm kind of glossing over everything that happens in between, but it's really just to get to the meat and potatoes, guys. So yeah, after that sequence of events, Sly manages to destroy the machine that Penelope had, but unfortunately, he gets trapped and Penelope's about to kill Sly, and luckily, that's when Bentley comes through once again to help us out. Bentley manages to defeat Penelope by himself and rescues Sly and the others, and for now, Bentley's demons have been casted away. For now. But now we move on to the final world before we meet our big baddie, Miss Decibel. Again, referred to the worst villains list. So, aside from that, you know, aside from Miss Decibel, I actually like this world a lot, Saudi Arabia's world, with Salim Al-Kupar. But unfortunately, the problem I have with this world is that even though the design of it is great and I do like Salim Al-Kupar, some of the missions are a bit, you know, lackluster at best. And also, we have a belly dance sequence in this game. Oh my gosh, man. That belly dance sequence, bro. And yeah, you know, and then this is the area where we finally learn who the mastermind behind this whole chaotic affair is. A skunk known as the Paradox. This skunk has been causing our issues from the very beginning, with having every member of his team steal Sly's ancestors' canes, while also erasing the Cooper history. And it seemed like he was becoming dangerously close to succeeding, now having stolen Carmelita away after their brief battle with Miss Decibel. So, while the Cooper gang was definitely down, they were not out for the count just yet. After defeating Miss Decibel, they go after the Paradox, but not before Bentley goes on a little recruiting trip. So, Sly manages to reach the Paradox's station so he can try to rescue Carmelita, but then gets captured along in the process as well. But then we get this Avengers Endgame style ending where every Sly Cooper ancestor that we worked with in the game is now helping us in stopping the Paradox for good. This was by far one of the best things that happened in this series. But not to stray too far off topic, you know, everyone works together in unison and they manage to steal. Everyone gets their canes back, and this, you know, the time period will correct itself because everyone's getting their canes back at the right points in time. All the while, the Paradox and Sly go over their families' histories and why they despise one another. And then, just when Sly and Carmelita are about to die, Tennessee Kid manages to shoot the glass and free them before going back to his time period. With the blimp destroyed and now about to create a time paradox in the whole fracture of the universe, Sly tells Carmelita, Bentley, Murray to get out of there and save themselves so that he can stop the paradox for good. Which, again, I'm not understanding why he couldn't have just let the paradox, you know, suffer at a different timeline, but I can understand, like, history is too chaotic. History is too chaotic to mess with. So, but yeah, so the others escape while Sly manages to defeat the Paradox. The Paradox however, manages to semi-escape before, he steals Sly's paraglider and then, gets hit by an airplane and then falls to the water. And Sly, unfortunately, is stuck on the blimp. Who Lord knows where he's going to next. So, the Paradox is arrested. Sly, however, is nowhere to be found, unfortunately, leaving the gang much more depressed than they were before. Especially Carmelita, who, she's not going to show her emotions in front of everyone like that, but she's hurting the most out of everyone. So, despite this, Bentley vows to one day find Sly Cooper. This game came out in 2013. It's been 10 years now. Anyway, back to that, yeah. So, now, here we are, we're stuck in time, and if we do enough in the game where we complete all the where we platinum everything on the PS3 for Sly, there's a secret ending that we learn about where Sly is. And it turns out, Sly is stuck in ancient Egypt, potentially leading to the idea that if there's ever a fifth game, that we will be dealing with Sly in common. And that, my friends, is how Sly Cooper Thieves and Times ends. Sly 4's story is... Unfortunately, it's the worst story that we've gotten in a Sly game so far, and that includes Sly 3. The story got a bit stale and redundant after a while. And also another thing that I wanted to point out when it comes to Sly 4's story is that, the story inconsistencies, they're very apparent in this game. And while I do appreciate what they were trying to do at certain points with the story, it just ultimately didn't work the way it should have. Especially when you compare this story to the first 3 game stories and how vastly different this story feels compared to the first 3. Even with Sly 3, because as inconsistent as the story was in Sly 3, at least the story was interesting and it kept you invested the entire time. I don't get that same feeling when I play Sly 4. So ultimately, Sly 4's story is the worst story in the entire series. The gameplay to Sly 4 is much different compared to the other games in the series. So, how do I feel about Sly 4's gameplay? For the most part, pretty much how I feel about Sly 3's gameplay. There are peaks and valleys, not stuff, not overly good stuff, but not overly bad stuff either. I just think, in terms of what they were trying to accomplish with being innovative, using the same kind of gameplay but being more innovative about it, I can appreciate that aspect that they were trying to go for. So but even though there's a couple of problems I do have with this in terms of the fluidity of the characters and how they feel weird to control at times, it took me a while to get used to the controls of how the movements of Sly, Bentley, Murray, and even Carmelita is nowadays. But I understand that's just the transition from going from a old gen console to a new gen console. So I can appreciate that they were trying to make it more unique in a way. So, as always, all the characters control pretty much the same. Not completely the same, but pretty much exactly the same. What I mean by that is that basically, one thing I can also say I really like about the gameplay is that instead of us having to do a Sly 3 thing, and we have to regain all our powers and equipment back again, they literally gave us half the stuff at the beginning of the game. Like the hover pack for Bentley, the paraglide's the very first item we get in the store. It's little things like that is what kept me happy throughout the game. Also, I can appreciate that there's a lot more side quests and side stuff to do in this game. Between the arcade room that's in the safe house now, the treasures that are finally back after being disappeared from Sly 3, the treasures and clue bottles. Thank you for finally bringing them back. And afterwards, I would also even say that, that at its best moments, this game really does feel like the old Sly Cooper games at its very best moments. But at its very worst moments, it's definitely much worse than Sly 3, I feel. For example, Juggling Act is my favorite mission from this game because of how much it feels like the old Sly Cooper games. I can even say Jailhouse Blues is another favorite mission of mine. But then you'll get a mission I don't know how many of you suffered with this one, but the training montage with Bob Cooper and trying to use that darn 6-axis controller, I don't know if anybody had any problem with that, but for me, that was easily my least favorite mission in this entire series, at least for me personally. And also, not to stray too far away from the same exact area, but you know, Bob Cooper is a Cooper that I felt didn't have any like real purpose to the story, in my opinion, because I truly think they could have replaced Bob Cooper with Sly and Common, or even, you know, Sly's dad, something. But again, you know, it is what it is. And on the topic of different Coopers, we could talk about every one of Sly Cooper's ancestors. They all basically control the same exact way as Sly, just with a bit of uniqueness to them. So for example, like Ryoichi will have like, you know, the spiral jump where he jumps straight to spire point very quickly. Or you'll have, you know, Tennessee Kid with the Raj Slayer and how he uses his gun to shoot down anything while slaying. Then you have Bob Cooper who can, you know, ice climb in the game, which again, it's nothing really great about it, if we're being honest. Next up, we got Sir Galeth, who can use the wall hooks to like launch his sword up and hit anything in his way. And then also we have Salim Al-Kupar, who, you know, can climb up and down things very quickly. So it's stuff like that really, like, you know, it still brings that bit of charm that Sly has. Is it always executed correctly? No, but I can appreciate the charm that's still there. Not completely, but just a bit there. Now, at first, I initially could not stand the art to this game at all, but after a while it grew on me. The problem I had with it was that it felt too cartoony rather than a comic book. You know, like, it wasn't suiting me for a while, but considering that, you know, this is like, you know, years into the future, you know, obviously a different developer, want a different art style. I don't see any other way they probably could have made this art style, but I still miss the art style from the first 3 games. Now, let's move on to the next section, which is the characterization in this game, which unfortunately took a major step backward. While some characters, pretty much most of the characters have extra life and personality to them, it either makes the certain characters come off as inconsiderate jerks or just blatant idiots throughout this entire game. For example, Sly. Sly is way too jokey and too calm in this game for my liking. Yes, he was calm and jokey in the first 3 games, but he did it as a way to keep the gang calm and collected in dire situations. In this game, it's like he takes this whole situation as a joke, you know? He really does, and it annoys me so much. Like, this is your family history about to be erased, bro. Like, I would be on the verge of wanting to kill someone because of this. Plus, the situation with Carmelita should have been stressing him out even more, you know, but again, you know, it leaves a lot to be desired, for me at least. Like, this game really should have been the opportunity to have Sly show some emotion outwardly that could actually, like, send shockwaves to the other gang members and Carmelita. Like, it could really, like, cause a ripple effect. Like, have Sly be filled with so much hatred, and maybe that hatred could potentially hit at Clockwork Returning in a 5th Sly game, you know, something like that. But maybe I'm just a dreamer. So, what about the other characters in this game? Well, Bentley is probably the only one who I can say remained true to his original characterization. In fact, he's probably the most developed of the group this time around, and it's literally one of the few that's not acting like a complete bimbo in this game. Murray, however, he really suffers badly in this game. Much like Sly, his characterization just gets turned up to -9,000 in this. For starters, for me, is the fact that they literally treat him like a straight up idiot in this game. Like he's the big dumb jock that's only there to help for the heavy lifting and is not actually smart or anything. Like, bro, what? What? On top of that, this is a minor nitpick. It may not affect other people, but it really annoys me here. They made the man fat in this game. He wasn't fat in the first 3 games. He was just brolic, you know, like he had a bit of fat, but it was more muscle than anything. In this game, they really, you know, make him like straight up fat, like beer belly fat. And I wouldn't have had a problem with this if it wasn't for the fact that they didn't tell us how much time disclosed between Sly 3 and Sly 4. Like, it's up to our interpretation. It could have been years, or maybe it could have literally been months, but who knows? Like, bruh. Another thing I'm also annoyed at is the fact that Dimitri is literally relegated to cutscenes in this game. No gameplay action whatsoever, and I know Sly 3's version of him when we actually got to play as him wasn't good, but still, it leaves a lot to be desired for me. And as for Carmelita, well... Okay. Jokes aside from the Rule 34 nonsense, in my opinion, Carmelita is probably the most developed character in this game. Instead of actually chasing the Cooper gang, she's actually forced to work with them, thus forcing Carmelita to learn about what they actually been doing on the side. As for her voice actor, while I despise Vicky from Fairly OddParents, Gray DeLise I think does a good job as Carmelita. And I know that's a hot take, because I know not a lot of people care for her like that, but I just think that, you know, she has a lot of passion this time around. Like, maybe a bit too much passion for my liking, but she definitely has the most passion from any Carmelita voice actor. She definitely ties with Ruth and Alicia for the best voice actor. Sorry, Roxanne. But in my opinion, I still think Ruth is the best Carmelita voice we got. But Gray, I think, is up there. But yeah, Carmelita to me had the best development because she's actually learning about what happens. I just wish that she wasn't so cold to Sly the way she was, because she did technically lie to herself as well, so she can't blame Sly for the entire situation. As for the other characters, well, they're not really good. They're not really good like that. The only extra characters I really like in this game is literally the ancestors and maybe Toothpick. That's it. El Jefe is boring to me, and he seems like another knockoff version of Rajan. I can't stand the Grizz, and he's a knockoff version of Dimitri. Miss Decibel is far away the worst character in this game in my opinion, and she's basically a knockoff version of Miss Ruby. And La Paradox is literally a wannabe Clockwood / Arpeggio. At least Toothpick has some originality to him by having the Napoleon Complex dude who thinks he's big, bad, and tough, but actually is when he's angry enough. And that's as far as I'm concerned about the art in this game. I don't want to go on for too long. Like, and the voice actors, they all give a lot of passion this time around, and I'll give them that credit. But I just think the writing that they were given was just not good enough for them, despite how much, like, I can literally hear that they were really into this, and I applaud them for putting so much effort into making these characters come to life a lot more. But it doesn't mean that it works entirely. Alright, now we're in the final section of this video before we get to the pros and cons of what I think my final score is. Now, the soundtrack to Sly 4. It's definitely the most unique one of all the four, and I'm on the fence with this soundtrack, cause like, some days I consider it better than Sly 1's soundtrack, and then some days I consider it worse than Sly 1's soundtrack. So it literally fights for the third and fourth spot, you know. And again, much like Sly 1, a lot of the soundtracks here, they are good for what they are, but I feel like some of them don't fit the Thiefy theme too well, or are just like a bit too like, as I would say, they're probably a bit too out there for my liking at least. So, but I will say though, the theme songs or soundtracks that I like in this particular game is definitely the main theme, some of the Wild West themes, and some of the England themes. All the other themes, they're very cool and special in their own particular way, but do I think they suit Sly Cooper? Not completely, but again, they're not bad soundtracks. Okay, so let's talk about the good that comes with Sly 4. I love the fact that there's a lot more stuff to do in here, a lot more than there's ever been in a Sly Cooper game combined. It's like they took everything from the first 3 games and tried to merge it into one with this particular game, and I'm all for that, and I love that they did that to bring back that nostalgic feeling for Sly fans, like the clue bottles being back, the treasures being back. Also, you can do side quests, you can do treasure hunts. Some of the missions feel like the old Sly Cooper games in a way, which is also another plus. I also love the ability to play as some of Sly's ancestors throughout history, and I think it brings a bit of new charm and innovation to the series. And lastly, I can also say I really do appreciate all the Easter eggs that they have in this game, between Clockwood, you know, revisiting old camping grounds, some of the footmarks, some of the writings, all that. Okay, so now that we got all the positives out the way, let's move on to the negatives of this section, which is my least favorite thing to do in these types of videos, but we gotta do it. So, okay, so as far as the negatives go, as far as what my least favorite thing about Sly 4 is how unnecessarily difficult some of these missions can be, man. And I went into detail with a couple of them in this video already, but if you need further detail, watch my top 10 worst Sly Cooper videos, worst missions videos, sorry. On top of that, story inconsistencies, I'm not very fond of either. The gameplay mechanics, some of it's hit, some of it is miss, you know. The biggest miss easily being the darn 6-axis controller assessment for whatever reason. Don't know why we're required to have that controller, because basically, without that type of controller, we can't even play Sly 4. So, again, it really sucks that it comes to stuff like that. Also, I'm not a big fan of some of the characterization in this game, along with some of the soundtracks that are in here as well. So, and that's my main point for the negatives as far as that goes, just to simplify everything. So, Sly 4. It really is the most divisive game in the entire series, because I thought Sly 3 held that honor, but Sly 4, I see it's a lot more divisive. But I think the verdict is very much more clear with Sly 4 than it is with Sly 3. So, how do I feel about Sly 4, Thieves in Time? Guys, I'm very sorry, but even after I've played all the games through again and just, you know, was trying my best to go in unbiased, Sly 4 to me is still the worst game in the entire series. It's not a bad game, it was just a major letdown and far away a different game compared to what we got with the first 3 games. And I really hate to do this because, like, I know the developers of Sans Route tried their damnedest to make this game as fun and as memorable as possible. But the problem was, with the factors of this game didn't sell as much as the other 2 games did with Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter. On top of that, Sony not really giving it a priority release. And then you had the problems I talked about with the controls and gameplay and the story. And it's just like this game just falls flat on its face. And I hate to do this, you know, because this was the game that killed the Sly franchise. And I hate the fact that I have to still rank this game as low as I do. Because now that I'm looking back at it, you know, had the fans, myself included, been more kind to the developers of this game, maybe Sony gives this game another chance. Maybe not, but you know, good reviews can help. Even though money is what really drives everything, good reviews can also help too, you know. So, what's my scores for Sly 4? For the story, I give it a 5. For the gameplay, I give it a 6. For the art, I give it a 7. And the soundtrack, I give it a 7. So the final score for Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is 6 out of 10. If I had to go back to the trilogy comparison between Sly Cooper and the Spider-Man original trilogy, Sly 4 is basically what Spider-Man 4 would have been, I feel. A game/film that's not in touch with any of the new games that are coming out, and it's just basically like trying to recapture the glory days, and it tried way too hard to recapture those days. That's what I get when I play Sly 4, and in most cases it makes me glad that we never got Spider-Man 4 with Tobey in it, even though I'm really happy that we got Tobey again in No Way Home. The only way that could have happened is with Spider-Man 3 failing, with the Amazing Spider-Man series failing. And who knows, maybe that precursor is a sign of things to come. If Tobey can come back as Spider-Man almost 15 years later, there's still hope for Sly, in my opinion, guys. So, we have to keep fighting, keep pushing forward. If you guys are dedicated enough, I am too. Let's get Sly another game or a comic series or something going for him, please. Let's go out there, let's do it, and let's get our raccoon dude back. And it is with that, everyone, that we have finally finished reviewing all the Sly Cooper games. Oh my gosh, I didn't think we'd get to this point, but we did. yeah, Sly Cooper, man. Sly Cooper, one of the greatest and most undervalued and underappreciated video game platformers of all time. And again, it hurts my heart that we still have yet to hear anything about this series. You know, with everything that's been canceled up until this point. You know, and it's just like the franchise. It's dead. It's dead at this point. But you know, I'm still keeping my eyes and ears open. You know, for any news about Sly possibly seeing a revival, I'm all for it. You know, but right now it just seems like there's nothing really going for the franchise at this point, aside from all the fans that do their damnedest to keep it alive. So, but again, guys, thank you for watching this video, and as always, guys, I will be back with some more Sly Cooper content. Be wary, I'm gonna get back to more ranking videos, but also I'm gonna try and do a couple of comic dubs of Sly Cooper too, so be on the lookout for those as well. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching my videos and showing me love and support every chance you get, because it really does help the channel a lot. And as always, I will see you guys next time, and this is your boy Sly Lancy, and I'm out.